Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise this evening to lead a special order alongside my colleagues to discuss, frankly, a reckless and misguided and radical proposal recently introduced by some of my Democratic colleagues, the Green New Deal. Tonight, together with many of my fellow members of the Congressional Western Caucus, we will be taking the time to share with the American people the details of the many ill-advised and bizarre provisions included in this Green Manifesto and the grave impacts that they would have on our nation's economy. We'll also share what we as Republicans in the People's House believe that when it comes to our national strategy to innovate, diversify, and strengthen America's energy sector. Mr. Speaker, the Green New Deal is a bad deal for the American people. This so-called deal calls for the cutting greenhouse gas emissions to net zero in only 10 years. And while many studies are still working to grasp the perilous impacts and the enormous costs of this proposal, one independent estimate led by a team of Stanford engineers suggests it would cost our nation in the neighborhood of $7 trillion to convert all of our America's power to renewable power sources. To quote the former Secretary of Energy under President Obama, Ernest Moniz, he said, "I'm afraid I just cannot see how we could possibly go to zero carbon in a 10-year time frame. It's just impractical," end quote. Mr. Speaker, the Green New Deal goes much further than just the energy sector, however. It also mandates the guarantee of a job for everyone, paid vacations for everyone, free college for everyone. It dictates that every existing building in this country must be upgraded and retrofitted for, quote, comfort. And it calls for a drastic overhaul of our transportation systems across the country, threatening not only our trucking and airline industries, but also the daily lives of the 85% of Americans who drive every morning or evening to get to work. Mr. Speaker, while calling for all of these implausible mandates, the Green New Deal would also insert the federal government into seemingly every aspect of our daily lives. By expanding our federal bureaucracy far beyond anything we have ever seen in history and undermining the federalist principles our country was founded upon in the Constitution, this proposal would jeopardize the future of America as we know it. It would sacrifice the American energy, manufacturing, and transportation sectors, jeopardize businesses, small and large, across the nation, and lead our country down the path of socialist nations like Venezuela, North Korea, and Cuba. As the Senate Democratic whip Dick Durbin said after reading the proposal, quote, "What in the heck is this?" End quote. Mr. Speaker, I couldn't agree more. My state, the great state of Washington, consistently ranks among the top of the list of states with the cleanest energy production. And do you know why that is? It's because of the strong reliance on our incredible system of hydroelectric dams, many of which are in my congressional district along the Columbia and the Snake Rivers. Nearly 70% of our power comes from hydropower, a clean, renewable, reliable, and affordable source of baseload energy. It also comes from our use of nuclear power. The Columbia Generating Station, which is also in the 4th Congressional District, which I represent, is the only nuclear power plant in the greater Northwest region. It too provides clean, reliable power for the Pacific Northwest. On top of these sources, Washington State uses a variety of other energy sources, including natural gas, coal, wind, solar, and biomass. It is because we use an all-of-the-above mix of energy sources, but largely concentrated on clean, renewable, reliable hydropower, that Washington State continues to demonstrate how we can lead in the use of clean energy while still diversifying and thereby strengthening our energy portfolio. Unfortunately, the Green New Deal negates the ability to do so. Not once is the word hydropower mentioned in the legislation. And in the frequently asked questions document that was released to accompany the introduction of the Green New Deal, it stated that, quote, the plan is to transition off of nuclear, end quote. Mr. Speaker, if we are going to continue to strengthen America's energy independence and increase our use of clean sources of energy, we must absolutely include hydropower and nuclear power. The science says so. The facts say so. So when Democrats in Congress release a sweeping, colossal overhaul of our nation's energy policies and do not include these clean energy sources, it is clear that this is far more about politics and not about sound science. Mr. Speaker, my fellow House Republicans and I continue to advocate for sound, comprehensive approaches to energy policy. We must continue to explore every opportunity to develop viable alternative energy sources, which is why, under Republican control of the House in recent Congresses, we have made serious investments in advanced nuclear and basic science research, grid-scale energy storage, and equipped our national laboratories with robust resources to lead the way in research, development, and innovation. National laboratories like the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory in my district play a crucial role in developing the basic science research needed to pave the way for these alternative sources. Then when private industry can utilize this research, the open marketplace can put these new sources to use. That is exactly what our country needs: more collaboration, more innovation, not a top-down mandated system of bureaucratic dictates based upon a green manifesto. Mr. Speaker, I often share with my constituents that myself, as a third-generation farmer, I consider myself to be a conservationist and on the front lines of being a good steward of our natural resources. I know that we must respect our environment. We must ensure clean air and clean water for our citizens. And we must encourage innovative ways to produce energy through a variety of reliable, renewable, traditional, and alternative sources. Tonight, I'm looking forward to hearing from my friends and my colleagues in the Congressional Western Caucus on why the Green New Deal would be catastrophic for their constituents and what we in our nation's capital should really be prioritizing in order to continue America's energy independence dominance.